Well, you're watching CNBC's Worldwide Exchange. Now, the fate of Russian oil joint venture TNK-BP is hanging in the balance at today's board meeting. The Russian consortium AAR, which represents the 4 Russian oligarchs who together own half of the company, has called an extraordinary board meeting aimed at ousting the current CEO, Robert Dudley. The move comes as the Russian partners have accused BP of bullying tactics. That's after the oil giant said it's suing them for more than $350 million over a tax claim. It's just what is going on. We're joined now by Stan Polovets, CEO of AAR, and he's on the telephone from Moscow. Mr. Polovets, thanks very much indeed for joining us. So look,
it's my pleasure.
What is it that you're not happy with exactly? What do you want? I mean, you want a change of management, you want a change of direction. What do you want to see happening that isn't?
Well, our main concern is with the performance of TNK-BP. Since the company was set up in the summer of 2003, our capitalization has only grown 138%, whereas all of our peers have grown much more aggressively, and the valuation of a company like Lukoil, for example, which was worth about the same as TNK-BP was in 2003, has gone up almost 500%. Both Lukoil and TNK-BP were valued at $16 billion in 2003. We're valued at $35 billion today. Lukoil is valued at $95 to $100 billion. There's no reason we should be lagging companies like that.
But Lukoil, you know, doesn't pay out dividends. Your company does. I mean, you've earned that both partners have shared, you know, got around $10 billion each since you set the company. I mean, that doesn't sound like failure to me.
Yeah. Well, Lukoil, first of all, pays dividends as well, probably not as aggressively as we've had. But the reason that their valuation has grown is that the company has been very aggressively expanding internationally. It's been making investments in downstream. Its EBITDA per barrel is 20 to 25% higher than TNK-BP's. We as a 50% shareholder of TNK-BP are very concerned with the fact that the company is just not performing. And we need a different strategy, we need a different system of corporate governance, and we need different management.
Okay, I mean, what strategy do you want to see? Because BP seems to me says, look, we're happy maybe for the company to go internationally into Kazakhstan or Turkmenistan or Venezuela. I mean, that seems reasonable to me. And you want the company to grow internationally?
These are some of the regions that we think we should be looking at. You know, our goal is not to create a worldwide competitor to BP. We understand that BP has operations worldwide, and it's not in its interest to create a new competitor. But we feel that there are many regions in the world where TNK-BP has a competitive advantage, where it's more advantageous for BP to operate through TNK-BP rather than through BP. And we believe that directors from BP who sit on the board of TNK-BP need to exercise their fiduciary responsibility and act in the best interest of all shareholders, including 5% minorities that we have at TNK-BP Holding, and forget that they get paid by BP. This is their fiduciary responsibility as directors of TNK-BP.
Mr. Polovets, it's Brian Shackman here in the U.S. How much conversation, if any, have you had with the government or Mr. Medvedev about how to deal with the situation?
We have briefed all the senior officials in the Russian government, and at this point, I believe there's a understanding among senior government officials that this is a commercial dispute between the shareholders about the company's strategy, about the company's governance, and about the company's performance. And we very much hope that Mr. Gordon Brown will not allow BP to drag him into what essentially is a commercial dispute.
Mr. Polovets, hi, this is Christine here. Essentially, BP is suing you for $362 million. What exactly are you doing about this lawsuit?
We will study the lawsuit. We have just been informed late last week that BP has filed legal action against AAR. We were very surprised by this action because we've been discussing this with BP for the last 12 months. Both shareholders made proposals and counter-proposals about settling this issue. The calculations are quite complicated. It's not a straightforward calculation. We owe some money to BP. BP owes some money to AAR. So we're very surprised that BP went ahead and filed legal action. this is very symptomatic of the way BP has been treating AAR and TNK-BP for the last several years. As opposed to sitting down and having constructive conversations and trying to reach a negotiated solution, BP has constantly resorted to bullying tactics, to threats and to innuendos through the media.
Although they would argue they're simply responding to your, what they would view as your aggressive news, Mr. Polovets. Either way, you're both investors in this joint venture. How is this going to be resolved? Because neither parties want this dispute to rumble on. If there is, you know, and look, Mr. Dudley's probably done a fairly good job in some eyes' view. So what's the resolution here that's going to enable both sides to get on and continue to run this company?
We've made 4 or 5 very simple proposals and recommendations to our partners at BP. One of them involves adding independent directors to the board of TNK-BP Limited. All the companies which are owned by the shareholders of AAR, Alpha Group, Access, and Renova, have independent directors on the boards of the companies which they own. Telecommunications, banking, aluminum, media, and so on. Our strategy is to always bring on board best experts, experienced, qualified, with impeccable judgment, who can help us grow the value of our companies. We'd like to do the same thing with TNK-BP. We don't understand why BP would consider it against their interests to bring on board international directors. We've also asked BP to appoint an independent CEO. It is BP's right to nominate the CEO of TNK-BP, and we fully respect and honor that right. All we're saying is that this individual needs to come from another company, not from BP. He's got to have qualifications and experience to run one of the largest companies in the world, and that is all we're looking for. But this individual cannot come from BP because we don't believe that this individual will be able to manage the company in the interest of all shareholders. We've also asked for parity at the subsidiary boards. We're 50-50 shareholders, but almost all of the boards that are subsidiaries are stacked in favor of BP. And finally, we've asked that the company reduce its reliance on BP secondees. There is several hundred BP employees, some are secondees, some are employees of TNK-BP that work in our headquarters in Moscow. In fact, what's happened is that there's a parallel management organization within the headquarters of TNK-BP, which reports only to BP, and we, the 50% shareholder, would like to change that. We're all for having international managers and technical specialists in TNK-BP, but we don't feel that BP has cornered the market on management and technical talent, and would like to make sure we have the best talent available, and some of this talent will inevitably have to come from other oil companies.
Okay, Mr. Polovets, thanks for joining us. Dan Polovets, CEO of AAR. That's his side of the story.